Hey Ninja lovers, this is your host Love Ninja and I welcome you to my channel, a place where we talk about dating and relationships and flirting and sex and everything in between using personality theories such as the Myers Briggs system and the Enneagram system. So it's cuffing season and I want to greet it by doing some psychoanalysis into the attraction between Raj Malhotra and Simran Singh, protagonists of one of the greatest romance movies of all time, Dilwale Dulhania Jayenge. Why? Because attraction is attraction and it don't matter if it's for a fling or something more drawn out like a matrimonial. Raj and Simran's attraction is electric. I mean, you don't even have to hear them talk to figure that piece out. Look at his eyes. They glow. They're bubbling wells of Dom Perignon when he looks at her. And her eyes were made big enough and hungry enough to swallow all of his spirit inside of herself. Get it? But we can't dwell on poetry here because this is a serious channel and where we discuss psychology. So let's get right into it. We're able to achieve this today thanks to the genius of Robert Greene, author of The Art of Seduction. It's a masterpiece. The book is a masterpiece and I'm plugging it here on my channel because I want you to give it a read and get smart. Seriously, there are lots of nuggets in here and you're going to benefit from it immensely. So the book basically talks about 9 types of seducers or 9 types of lovers and the unique toolbox of seduction that each of these 9 archetypes has at their disposal in order to perform their seduction. And what is seduction exactly? Seduction is when you're under someone's spell, when you become a victim and you're vulnerable to their charm. And so, in a sense, you let them break your defenses down and you let them influence your behaviors in a way that defies common sense, right? It's that moment when you open that can of Milkmaid and you feel compelled to lick every saccharine, sticky smudge of Milkmaid that's sticking on the lid. And even though the tinny edges could technically cut through your tongue and make you bleed, you still want to consume that Milkmaid and you want to be consumed. So it's that moment of escalation, that moment of madness. That's when you're seduced and that's when seduction happens. So I'm just going to refer to my notes occasionally as I go through this content. So anyways, back to DDLJ. For part 1 of this lecture, I would like to analyze Raj Malhotra's sexy charm. And for part 2, I'll scope out Simran Singh's seduction style, which is markedly different from Raj Malhotra's. And the reason why I'm splitting this video is because I don't want to pack too much information in one video and addle your mind as well as mine. So what type of a seducer is Raj Malhotra? He is a fictional character and he is an exaggeration. His charm is an exaggeration because he needs to appeal to an audience. But, and at any given point in time, he displays characteristics of all of the 9 types of seducers or lovers. But there are some dead giveaways, and be warned that this is my subjective interpretation of RG's work, so I could be a hit or a miss with it. So coming back to Raj Malhotra, who is he? So he's this young, fresh-faced college student and he has machismo because he fails his college exams consistently and he can also outrun a propeller plane. He has a head full of bouncy hair and he bounces and he's witty and he jokes and he teases. So it's obvious to me, and he's rich and he's spoiled, and it's obvious to me that Raj Malhotra plays Shah Rukh Khan, and Shah Rukh Khan epitomizes the archetype of the charmer. And if you watch Shah Rukh Khan in any interview, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, I would highly recommend that you pause this video and watch season 1, episode 8 of Bollywood Wives on Netflix to know the kind of influence or the charm that Shah Rukh Khan has on women, literally. So who's a charmer, right? It's someone who has a lot to offer to hold your attention, and that's their charm. So right from the get-go, Raj displays his social smoothness. He's never awkward, really, right? He has these smooth edges to him, and when he flirts with Simran, he does it with a felicity, with an ease. You would think that Simran would play right into it, and he kind of shines the spotlight on her, which is something that charmers do, right? As human beings, we're all self-centered. We are narcissistic creatures mired in our own thoughts and worries. But selfishness is anti-seductive, and charmers recognize that. So what they do is unique, right? They may be good-looking men and women, and they have social graces. They know that they're charming and they're lovable, and they have a certain magnetism about them. Yet they don't grab that spotlight for themselves. They want to shine it on you. They want to give you the flow. They want to bring out the hidden parts of you to the forefront when they are into you. And that's precisely what Raj does. He's able to pick up on the fact that there's more to Simran than meets the eye. She's not this young, quiet woman, boring, reading all the time, lost in her own world. He knows there's more to her. How? Because when he flirts with her, she rebuffs his attempts, and he loves the energy that he receives, right? It's big. And he knows that underneath that shy exterior of Simran's, she's the seething cauldron of anger and hate and ambition and desire, and she's suppressed all of these emotions and these impulses. Why? That's something that Raj figures out through the first half when he gets her to unravel. So yeah, that's exactly what Raj does. And as much as you would think that this movie is all about Raj and he's the star of the movie, he's actually a very boring character. He's very straightforward. His arc is pretty linear, right? He's this happy-go-lucky kid who's been raised by a liberal-minded single dad who is wealthy, and he lets Raj get away with murder because Raj is pampered. And Simran is the one who's complex. She's nuanced. She offers the conflict to Raj and Simran's love story, right? So winning her love and her family's love is Raj's Bildungsroman. So through the first half, we get to learn that Simran belongs to a patriarchal household where she has to play she chooses to play the role of a stereotypical good daughter because she doesn't want to disappoint her father. She wants to listen to him. She wants to obey him. And she's ready to be a housewife straight out of college. And she's ready to marry a man whom she's never met before and never seen pictures of, because that's what Daddy Dearest wants for her. So when Raj confronts Simran with the preposterousness of this decision in the first half, right, as they get flirting and they get friendly and they get to know each other, Simran somehow she shows a resignation to her fate, an acceptance, right? A passive one, but an acceptance nevertheless. Because what more can you expect from heroines from the 90s, right? So Raj may like Simran. He may be infatuated with her, but that doesn't mean that he'd argue her out of her own decision or nuke the guy that she's going to marry. Because force is not seductive. It's anti-seductive, right? So charmers don't indulge in arguments and confrontations, and they're not aggressive because all of these have negative connotations to them and they are anti-seductive traits. So he sort of accepts his defeat with grace at the end of the first half. And that's what charmers do. They don't foist, they don't iron flex, they show grace. They accept small defeats if it means that they have to win the war, right? That's the bigger objective. And Raj shows grace. So back to his flirtation. Raj is charming, yes, and you would think that Simran would be wooed easily, but if that were the case, then the movie would have ended in the first 30 minutes, if not sooner. But this is a marathon 3-hour movie, right? So Simran obviously doesn't fall for his charm. And Raj isn't able to give up. She's a challenge. He likes the challenge, right? So what does he do? He can't be aggressive because he's a charmer, and that's anti-seductive. So what he does is he taps into the reservoir of his secondary style of seduction, coquetry. And he plays a coquette. So who's a coquette? Archetype number 2. So coquettes, they're a tease. They play hot and cold. They stir desire within you, and just when you want them, they say au revoir, and they leave you high and dry. So that's precisely what Raj Malhotra does. He changes up his strategy when he realizes that Simran isn't falling for his charm, right? She's rejecting his advances, and he becomes a coquette. He plays hot and cold. He gives her a ton of attention, and then he withdraws that attention. And he does this so he can break him. He can heighten the tension between him and Simran, and also kind of break her emotionally, right? So how does this play out? Simran knows right from the beginning that Raj is kind of vying for her attention because he keeps throwing her all these compliments, and she feels like she has the upper hand, that she is that Raj is has put her on a pedestal, right? And she has the upper hand, and Raj is the sycophant. He's the inferior one, and she couldn't be more wrong, because just as she feels elevated, Raj pulls the rug out from under her feet, and he redirects the same compliments that he paid her toward her best friend. And Simran is enraged. And Raj keeps at it, and as he breaks into the song Ruk Ja O Dil Dewane. Simran thinks the song is about her, and Raj kind of leads her on. And toward the end of the song, he dedicates the song to her best friend, and you can see how agitated Simran is. The tool that Raj uses here is triangulation, right? It's a sport, and he has both of these women hooked onto him. And as Simran's BFF laps up his attention readily, he withdraws his attention from Simran, and this manipulation sort of works effectively. Simran is enraged, she's unhinged, she's unsettled, and all the while Raj stays cool as a cucumber. And this is how coquettes roll. They play your emotions like a piano while staying cool and collected and self-possessed themselves. So they're sort of like immune from your emotional charge, right? Also a note on creating love triangles. It's a super important tool in a super important tool of seduction, as Robert Greene points out, because you become more desirable in the eyes of someone when you're already desired by somebody else, because we all want what others want. Raj kind of keeps up with this hot and cold play, giving Simran attention and then taking it away from her, and being playful and goofy. But at some point, the relationship softens to romance, right? How does this transition happen? So now Raj switches back again to being a charmer. So by this point, he's picked up on the fact that Simran is a virgin and she's not going to have sex with him before marriage. So when they end up in a hotel room drunk, and Simran is all flustered in the morning and she wants to know if they did it or they didn't, Raj pulls a fast one on her. And Simran is thoroughly mortified. She's livid. And how do livid women show that they're livid? They cry, and she cries a river. And that's when Raj goes in for the jugular, right? He leans into her and he holds her head and he tells her, mano avumano, that she's in fact wrong, that they didn't do it, and he's not a scumbag. He is an Indian, and he could never dishonor a woman by having sex with her before marriage. And he kind of stays calm as Simran is bawling and she's hysterical. And then Simran eases into him. She leans into him, she hugs him, holds him tight for comfort and support. And they hug together and voila, that's how you create romance. So with this scene, Raj establishes himself as a high-value man, respectable and calm under the face of pressure. He can never crumble, right, in the face of adversity. And that's the hallmark of a charmer. So another important seductive trait of a charmer is that they're not out there to throw themselves into every fight, every argument to win a point, right? Because aggression, after all, is anti-seductive. So charmers recognize that, again, it's okay to lose some fights and accept some small defeats in order to savor bigger victories, things that really matter. So at the end of the first half, things are still nebulous, right? We know that Raj and Simran clearly have feelings for each other, but they're still processing their own emotions and they're not ready to express their feelings for each other, not yet. So when Simran tells Raj that she has to go to India to, she has to go ahead with her plans to marry this man chosen by her dad, and she asks Raj, she invites him to her wedding, and Raj kind of politely declines, because why the fudge would he go to her wedding when he's clearly in love with her, but he's not ready to tell her that yet. So that's when it hits Simran that Raj isn't a buddy, right? That's literally the moment when the cloud of ambiguity clears out, and Simran can see it bright as day for what it is, that all that tension between them was in fact kind of sexual, and the only way they can act on their impulses is if they get married, right? Because this is the 90s, baby, and according to the Oxford Dictionary, in the 90s, Tinder was a dry flammable material such as wood or paper used for lighting a fire, not a dating app. So anyway, Simran begins to miss Raj as they part ways when he's gone. And she now realizes that she doesn't just want Raj, she needs him. She is dependent on him, right? And who creates this kind of dependency? A charmer. And of course, Raj is a charmer, and he creates this dependency because he keeps coming to Simran's rescue throughout the movie, throughout the first half and the second half. And he is super useful to her, right? He stays calm and collected whenever there is an obstacle. And Simran learns to associate Raj with problem solving, and she grows dependent on him. And that's what Raj wants. So for instance, like in the first half, Simran misses her train. She's kind of like stranded in this foreign country without a passport. And then she lays on her Indian accent so thick when she appeals to the Swiss police. And you're left to wonder how the writers could kind of forget that she grew up in London. And you try to wrap your head around this absurdity and this ridiculousness. But you know that you didn't care about it when you were watching it as a kid, as a 9-year-old. So why the fudge should you care about it right now? And Raj doesn't care. Nobody cares. And Raj comes swooping in to save his Rani every single time. And that's the only authenticity that matters here, right, folks? So this is a love story, not a factual documentary. And Raj is a lover and Simran is a lover, and they speak the language of love. And that's all that matters. So the second half of the movie is a testament to Raj's charmer archetype. By this point, it is clear that Simran and Raj love each other, and Simran is aware that her family is never going to approve of her choice. They're not going to let her marry some man she loves when she's agreed to honor her dad's decision and marry the man he's chosen for her. So she's kind of lost and broken, and she loves her family, but she's ready to abandon them because she's desperate. She yearns for Raj's love. So she wants to abandon them, leave them behind. And that right there, folks, is how you get addicted to charmers, right? They make you lose your sensibility. They make you feel, and an emotional person is catnip for charmers, because when you're emotional, that's when you yield to someone's charm, right? Because emotions make you lose your common sense. So Simran is full of rebellion, and what does Raj do? You would imagine that he would take advantage of the situation because she's so vulnerable right now, right? He would be happy to run away with her because she's fallen for him. And what more could he want other than that? But Raj does something totally out of the blue, right? Because he's an Indian and he's an honorable man. So he kind of handles Simran's fire of rebellion by dousing it. Again, this is a charming quality. And he tells her that he will try his darndest to win her family's affection and their approval. And he would seek their approval for his desire to marry Simran. And that's how it's going to be. So Raj then begins to seduce Simran's family, right? Again, by being a charmer. And he doesn't apply a generalized charm again. By just being friendly and kind with everybody. Instead, he takes his time to study each of the family members, and he customizes his charm accordingly, right? He kind of studies what they like. He's very observant, so he picks up on their moods, and that's how he kind of personalizes his charm. So to Simran's dad, he appears, he's this desi man with desi ghee values, right? And to Simran's mom, he kind of leans into his femininity, right? He wants to neutralize that gender divide that exists between a man and a woman. So he taps into his feminine side with a felicity. He's kind of agreeable, and he shows that he's ready to take on stereotypically feminine chores like hosting guests and serving them food and la boisson. Keep in mind, this movie is set in the 90s, and men didn't do house chores, right? In the 90s, they just chugged beers and they gave women chores so women could keep themselves busy. And now that we're in the year 2022, we must pause to observe that some things don't change ever. So to Simran's sister, he's a flatterer and a bearer of gifts, and the kind that any teen would crush on, right? Because he throws compliments so easily, and he appeals to a teenager's vanity or a woman's vanity, right? Which only grows with age. So, and to Simran's betrothed, he's a suave rich boy who has a wad of cash, and he wants to blow all of his money, and he also wants to share his money with his friends, with his posse. So that's my part 1 psychoanalysis of DDLJ and its iconic charmer Raj Malhotra. In part 2, we'll pick apart Simran Singh's Seduction. So watch out for that. So let me know your thoughts about today's video. And when you're done watching this, why don't you take a quiz? Why don't you find out what kind of a seducer or a lover you are? The link will be in the description box, so you can click on it. And let me know what type of seducer you are, right? And if you're too shy, my honey, just drop me an email on emailloveninja@gmail.com. As always, don't get complacent. Love you, love me, love Ninja.